These monsters are fantastically scary. Hey everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome to Watch Mojo. Today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 scariest monsters in fantasy movies. That means we're going over the monsters and creatures from fantasy films that are the most frightening. All right, let's get to the list. Number 10, Davy Jones and the Flying Dutchman crew, the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. The Pirates franchise is no stranger to fiendish, supernatural pirate crews. But for our money, the scariest is the crew of the Flying Dutchman and their captain, Davy Jones.
Do you feel death?
Every crew member of this cursed vessel has taken on the attributes of at least one sea creature, and the results are horrifying. This is best exemplified in Bill Nye's portrayal of Captain Davy Jones, whose tentacled face and unsettling voice lend an incredibly creepy air.
Life is cruel. Why should the afterlife be any different?
Maybe it's the fact that they remain villains for more than one movie, but these undersea pirates just give us the heebie-jeebies. Number 9, Scariest, the Dark Crystal. Although the whole movie in general is pretty terrifying and gave a whole generation of kids deep-seated trauma that they are still getting over, we'd argue that the Scariest are the most terrifying creatures in Dark Crystal.
It won't hurt. We just want to drain your living essence.
This race of creatures looks like a cross between vulture corpses and dinosaurs, and the way they sound is just as unsettling as their appearance.
Mine.
When they're not dominating other races, they're probably draining them of their life essences to prolong their own lives. And don't even get us started on their table manners. Number 8, the Nazgul, the Lord of the Rings franchise. The menacing servants of the Dark Lord Sauron, the Nazgul, also known as the Black Riders or Ring Wraiths, are 9 black-cloaked figures who relentlessly pursue the One Ring. Once human kings, their own rings of power have left them wraith-like husks of their former selves.
They were once men, great kings of men. Then Sauron the Deceiver gave to them 9 rings of power. Blinded by their greed, they took them without question, one by one, falling into darkness.
Their dogged pursuit of Frodo and company lasts throughout much of the trilogy, and they're among the most formidable enemies they come across. Their high-pitched screeches and numerous creepy mounts that let them travel even by air, the Nazgul are iconic and scary monsters in the fantasy genre.
If you want him, come and claim him.
Number 7, Mrs. Dodds, Electo, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief. Mrs. Dodds is a substitute teacher at the titular character school.
Good morning. I'm Miss Dodds, your substitute English teacher.
While substitutes can be terrifying in their own right, depending on who you ask, Dodds is scary for another reason. While on a school trip to a museum, Dodds calls Percy to a room to speak alone and abruptly appears on some scaffolding, demanding to know where it is before transforming into a winged, multi-armed creature called a Fury. The combination of the Fury's disturbing visage and her excess of limbs, along with her brief and abrupt appearance, makes her memorable, despite her short screen time.
Give it to me. Now, or I will bite your heart out.
Number 6, Vermithrax Pejorative, Dragon Slayer. An absolute terror to the kingdom of Urland, Vermithrax Pejorative is a spiteful dragon whose wrath is only kept in check by her love for her children and her appetite for the flesh of virgins.
Now be it known throughout the kingdom that this maiden, having lawfully been chosen by a deed of fortune and destiny, shall hereby give up her life for the greater good of Urland.
Everything about Vermithrax is intimidating, from her appearance to her name. Thanks to being created in part through practical and stop-motion effects, Vermithrax feels very real, which only makes her that much scarier when she's breathing fire, causing earthquakes, or dueling wizards. We certainly wouldn't want to run into her in a dark cave. Number 5, the Basilisk, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. The Basilisk is a giant snake with the power to kill with a glance.
Of the many fearsome beasts that roam our land, none is more deadly than the Basilisk. Capable of living for hundreds of years, instant death awaits any who meet this giant serpent's eye.
One basilisk in particular calls the titular Chamber of Secrets home, and terrorizes the magical school of Hogwarts during Harry Potter's second year attending it. Although miraculously none of the students die, they are petrified, which is still quite disturbing. Harry coming face to face with the huge serpent makes for a harrowing climax to the movie, and we're sure there are some film heroes who wouldn't have kept cool under pressure against it.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Number 4, the Kraken, Clash of the Titans, and Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. There have been many undersea creatures in fantasy films, but few have the kind of name recognition as the Kraken.
Release the Kraken!
Usually depicted as some form of giant, many-limbed sea creature, the Kraken appears in many parts of pop culture, though its most famous fantasy incarnations are in the 2 Clash of the Titans films and the second Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
And let this day be cursed by we who ready to wait. The Kraken!
In the former, the creature is the last of the Titans, unleashed by the gods to destroy Argos. In the latter, the Kraken is closer to its mythological counterpart, as a huge octopus-like creature that's used by Davy Jones to destroy Jack Sparrow and his ship. All versions encapsulate the primal fear of sea creatures taken up to 11. Number 3, Dementors, the Harry Potter franchise. Although not the only cloaked, sinister beings on our list, we'd argue that the Dementors are the scariest of this archetype.
The Dementors are amongst the foulest creatures to walk this earth. They feed on every good feeling, every happy memory.
Desiccated, corpse-like creatures that glide and float about in black robes, Dementors spread fear and hopelessness, as well as literal chills, to people whenever they come near them.
Our Dementors force us to relive our very worst memories. Our pain becomes their power.
As horrifying as that is, what's worse is what happens when they kiss you. Dementors are actually able to suck out someone's soul through their mouth, leaving their victim a hollow shell of their former self. But what's scarier than fear personified?
Well, I'm very impressed. That suggests that what you fear the most is fear itself.
Number 2, the Balrog, the Lord of the Rings franchise. Demonic entities of shadow and fire, Balrogs are servants of Morgoth, the Dark Lord that the Dark Lord Sauron once bowed down to. We like our Tolkien lore here.
A Balrog, a demon of the ancient world.
Huge, winged, and looking like the love child of lava and darkness, the Balrog that appears in the Lord of the Rings trilogy is straight up terrifying, and has even the most experienced members of the Fellowship of the Ring shaking with fear. This foe is certainly beyond any of us, too.
This foe is beyond any of you.
We know, Gandalf. That's why you're the badass. The wizard's lengthy duel with the Balrog results in both of their deaths, which says a lot about how powerful they both are.
You shall not pass!
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, the Pale Man, Pan's Labyrinth. Some creatures in fantasy are the stuff of nightmares. The Pale Man is part of the stuff nightmares are afraid of.
Iréis a un lugar muy peligroso. Tened cuidado, lo que ahí dormita no es humano.
A sallow, saggy-skinned being, the Pale Man resides in a lair where he tempts children to eat from its table and devours them, a hobby that, judging from the paintings in his dwelling, he is exceptionally fond of. Along with his horrid diet, the Pale Man's appearance is incredibly disturbing. With his eyes being located in his hands instead of his face being especially unsettling. Young Ophelia's encounter with the Pale Man has us watching from behind our hands every time. You know, I met the guy who played the Pale Man in Pan's Labyrinth, Doug Jones, and he was so nice, I don't understand how he can be that scary. And that's just a fun fact about that. Anyway, which fantasy monster do you think is scariest? Let us know in the comments, or come talk to me on Twitter or Instagram at Rebecca Brayton. Also, be sure to like and subscribe, and please watch this other video.